Alright guys, I have been away from YouTube for a while and a lot of crazy things has happened in the past few months. My Instagram kind of blew up and I've been posting reels every day and that's been great. But what I really learned from doing a daily reel for more than 4 months has been color grading. So I switched to DaVinci about 3.5 months ago or something like that from Premiere Pro to DaVinci Resolve, and it's been a game changer. I will tell you, I've learned so much about color grading and I've become so much better from just the consistency of doing it every day. And since there's been a lot of requests for how I do it, I thought we would start a new series, and I just wanted to get back on YouTube as well. So we're starting a new series called Let's Color Grade, which is basically just me breaking down my color grades and showing you how I color grade. I'll be making some more tutorial style videos as well that kind of goes a little bit more in depth with different things, but this series is mostly just me color grading, and hopefully you can learn a lot from that, and you can kind of see how I go about my process and what I do for each shot that I color grade in this series. So I think we should just head straight into the computer and let's get started. This is the clip that we're working with today. It is shot on my Canon EOS R6 and it is shot in 4K at 60 frames per second, and I always edit in 30 frames per second or 29.97 frames if you will. So this is slowed down to about 50%. And this is the only thing that I've done with the clip so far. Just put it in, remove the audio because it's in slow motion, so we don't need it, and there was no real audio to it anyway. And the timeline is in 4K as well. And what I want to do in this series is basically just go through how I would color grade this clip. Now, one thing that is important to say is that this clip was shot way too overexposed actually, which was a mistake on my side, but luckily I have been able to save the clip either way, and I think we can do something pretty cool with it. So let's head over to the color grading tab, and I will just hide the clips so we have a little bit more real estate to work with, and also the gallery. And often I edit or color grade in a vertical mode for my reels, but in this series I'll try to do it in landscape whenever we can, so that we have some more real estate and you can actually see what I'm doing, and I don't have to color grade it this way up, which is not what I normally do, so everything is sideways. So the first thing I do when I get to my color grading is to create my node tree. So what I do is I use Command S. You can also just right click and say add node and add serial node. Right click, I use Option S to create 3 on the top. Then I create another row where I create 4 nodes. Then I drag the 8th one down here, and the 9th one I'll drag to the side over here. You'll see in a minute why I do this, but this is kind of what I've ended up doing after doing this for every day for the past 4 months. So I started only having like 2-3 nodes, so don't be confused or anything. This will make sense in a minute. Let's change this to the waveform. You can already kind of see that this was overexposed and it's a little bit of a tricky shot to work with to begin with, but the first thing I want to do is I want to go to effects and I want to go to the color space transform. And what we're doing here is this is shot in log, C-Log 3, and with Canon Cinema Gamut. So for the input color space, we'll choose Canon Cinema Gamut. And for the input gamma, we'll choose C-Log 3. And then for the output color space, we will choose Rec 709. And the timeline, or the output gamma, sorry. You can use Gamma 2.4. I've seen a lot of people use that. I often just use Rec 709 myself. It doesn't seem to do a big difference. I can't actually see a difference when I'm doing it. So I've been doing this for so long now that I just stick with that, but I don't really see big results with doing the other thing, and I don't really know what it does different. It's just if you've seen other videos, that could be something there. The reason why this is on the last node is because I want my full color space to be working with in the color grading and corrections phase here. So we put the last node to be our color space transform, so that happens in the last. So that means that everything we're doing now, we're working with the full color space, and then we are converting it as the last step before it's actually exported. But we're seeing what happens down here on the screen. So if I disable this, Command D, you can see that it went from log to now it's in Rec 709. So anyway, let's go to node 2, leave node 1 for a minute. Always start on node 2. And what I do here is I can try to adjust the exposure, saying that this was overexposed. So we're going to do quite a bit of work. So we're dragging down the left, dragging down the gamma. We might be dragging up the gain a little bit and just playing around with it until we get somewhere that's better. And the first thing you'll notice here is that the shot looks a little bit off. It took me a few minutes to figure out what was happening here, and that's why we didn't touch node 1 to begin with. So node 2 is always my exposure corrections. So you can see what a huge difference that made, just dragging down the left, dragging down the gamma, putting a little bit more gain in it so that we don't lose all the contrast. And then before we head on and adjust the temperature and tint, which is what's wrong right now, I'll just go in and put in a little bit of contrast. So just punch it in with a little bit of contrast, and I like to raise the midtones a little bit as well. You can see that also made a big difference. So what we've done so far with these two, we've gone from this, which is converted to Rec 709, and now it looks like this. But it looks off, so let's go back to our primaries color wheel, and let's try and see what happens if we drag these to the side. So I think we go -5, because everything looks a little bit purple now. So we're going to drag the tint a little bit to the left, and then we are going to drag and see. So I think we need a little bit more warmth, maybe. Yeah, maybe just 150. That's about as good as it gets, I think. So you can see that really changed it from this purple bluish look. Just adding a little bit more temperature and a little bit more green. Now we are back to some more balance with the image. So I don't always do this step. It's only if my camera gets it wrong. I have it on auto white balance, and sometimes it's just a little bit off. So that's what I will use the first node to. And then I will do the exposure corrections and then the contrast. So this is basically all we're doing with these, like step 9 and 1, 2, 3, are just correcting the image. So now we are at a base level of the image. You can see our waveform down here. It's looking pretty good. So now we get to the color grading steps. So the first thing I do here is I will go into the curves, and I will go into the different color curves. And always just click on all of these, because then we get a point in each of the colors. And then I will go in and adjust these ever so slightly. Because we have skin tones as this one, it can be a little bit tricky, but I want to put a little bit more orange into this one. And let's just see, maybe drag down the yellows a little bit. The greens, I want them to be more yellow, a little bit. You can see it's not all of them that we are getting, so we're just going to do that ever so slightly. And actually we're going to move the yellows up a little bit as well to get that kind of warmer feel. Let's see what we've done so far. We'll correct the skin tones afterwards. So right now we're looking mostly at what's around her. The blue tones and teal tones are in the dress right now. So don't want to do too much with these. Might just drag it around a little bit, but it doesn't make that big a difference in this one. So that was the hue versus hue. Then we go to the hue versus sat, which is the saturation of the different hues. Again, I think we want to push this a little bit up. This one we might actually drag just slightly down, and the same thing with the greens. And I want to do that with these as well, because I want the dress to be as blue as possible. So you can see that removes a lot of the saturation from the blues here. So we have a more desaturated look. And then for the luminance, we do again the thing with the points here. And then I'll drag up the luminance quite a bit here, because I like it to be a little bit brighter. The greens can go down a little bit. I like the dress to be a little bit brighter as well. So let's see, slight differences, but we got some more warmth back here, made it a little bit more purple and orange. So that is where we're at right now. So that's usually my step 4, is going through these curves, and I'm sometimes coming back to them later on if there's need for adjustment at the end. Then I will go in and do my more kind of creative coloring. So I'll push some blue into the left, and it's starting to look weird, but don't worry. It's because we're only affecting the lift right now. So kind of like, for this shot, I don't want too much lift actually. So let's just reset it and just do it ever so slightly. And then the gamma, we're going to push that up, and we're going to figure out, I think we want it a little bit more towards the yellows than the oranges. And this one we want to push up, and we want to do that towards the reds and the oranges here. And then we can actually push the lift down a little bit again to counterbalance some of what we did. And this made quite a big difference. You can see we're separating my friend here a little bit more from the background, and we're just creating some more color contrast. Sometimes I go heavy on these, but for this shot, and because there's a person involved, then we don't do too much. My sixth node is usually the color warper. It's not that often that I do too much with it, but I kind of like, you can see by dragging these around, I can affect each of the colors and how they're looking. So I kind of look to push this up a little bit, and then drag this one a little bit up as well, just to saturate the yellows and the oranges. And then I'll drag the greens towards this side as well. Not that the greens are too much affected, but I kind of like how the look affects how it is. And the few greens that we have, I want them to be more in the yellow and the orange side. And then for the blues, it is dress, so I actually just want to push these down quite a bit, and the purples as well. So you can see again a slight difference, but we got some more warmth in the image overall just by pushing these around a little bit, the saturation and the hue for these. And then for the last step in the color grading wheels here, I will go to the log. So we are at the primary wheels that we did before, and now we go to the log wheels, which is what you will normally see in if you use Premiere Pro or if you use Final Cut or something like that. So for the shadows, I will push down the blue, the teals a little bit again, and just to separate the colors. Then I will push up some more orange and a little bit more yellow here as well. A little bit of a difference again. So we got more of like a dark green, blue-ish tone in the background, and we got some more warmth up here. So this is before and this is after. So if we just go through the color grading steps, this is what we were at before. So this was after our correction, and this is what we're looking at now. We got this kind of teal and orange look, which is what we created today, but I'm not finished at all. So this is kind of, let's just quickly go through what we did. So this is the log conversion. These are the correction steps. So with that, we went from completely log to a corrected image. Then we went in and did some more grading. Now we have some more creative grading going on here. But when it really comes to life, what I think I do in my color gradings is when we start doing the masking. So what I'll do is I'll add a parallel node. And what I love about DaVinci is that it mixes these together so we can get really creative, which is something that I really love to do. So for this one, I would love to make the path a little bit darker without affecting our subject too much. So what I'll do is I'll create a mask or a power window, the squared one. I'll drag it all the way out to the sides. And if we click Shift H or use this button up here, we can see this is all that we have selected now. Then I'll drag it to the bottom and I'll feather it out by doing so. And I think that's pretty good. Drag it around just to see if we can align a little bit, like such. And then we go into the qualifier. And I kind of want to just see if I can just qualify this part that is the road, which is quite difficult because it got some of those oranges that she has in her skin tones as well. It's going to be a little bit difficult to just catch those. And sometimes I'll put in quite a bit of work to try and make this work. You can see if we drag down the luminance a little bit, we get a little bit of a better one. Then just trying to play around with these. For this video, we're not going to do it too much in depth. We can do that another time. I'll blur it out a little bit, around 10, 11. See if it makes a difference. If we make the clean black a little bit, the clean white as well, we can get a little bit more of the road. And then I'll go into tab 2 and just denoise it quite a bit to make sure that we don't have too much like flickering around. And a good thing to check is if we have anything flickering when we do it like this. and it doesn't seem like we do, so I think we're all good. Sometimes if you don't adjust these settings down here, you'll see a lot of flicker in the gray areas, which you will definitely see in the video afterwards of the color grading. So this is how we've masked this out. So this is all that is now shown in this one, everything that is not gray. So let's go in and then just darken the path a little bit. We will affect her a little bit as well. I think that's okay. And then we're actually doing it in the wrong step. So let's go into the left. That'll be more dramatic, perfect. And the gamma is a little bit as well. And just look at that. It's okay that the jacket is affected as well for now. And we can drag just a little bit more blue into it to create some more contrast. I think that looks pretty good. Okay, so a next step could be that I'll just add a few more notes because we're going to do a few more things. So let's just add a few more. Okay, so now we have affected this part back here. Now I want to put some more emphasis on our subject and lighten her up, brighten her up a little bit. So let's make a new power window, the old one this time. Drag it out a little bit and feather it. Actually, we'll wait with the feathering till in a minute. So this is what we have selected now. And because she's doing this thing with her arm, moving a little bit out of frame, this is going to be our shot where we are going to track from, and we're going to the tracker. Then we're just going to track to both sides, see how it does. If it does well, it did on that part, and it perfectly tracks it on the other side as well. So now we got a perfectly tracked mask. It does pan or shift tilt a little bit, but that's okay. Sometimes it turn off 3D, but for now it's good. So you can see if we move through it, it tracks her, which is perfect. That's exactly what we wanted. And we could decide then to, let's just pause it around here. We could decide how much feathering we want. So let's go back to the power window. Let's try and see if we can just kind of drag it in a little bit more. So it's okay that the background is affected. We could go into the qualifier and qualify some of her out, but let's just see if it's okay doing it like this. So we'll go in, increase the gamma a little bit, increase the gain, maybe increase the lift. No, we'll leave the lift down. We'll even push it a little bit down as well. And then the gamma up and the gain up a little bit more, just to give her some more. And then if we turn off the power window, let's look at the difference. So we basically just brightened up the middle. But the cool thing is that it blends very well with the background and what we did before. So if we take both of these, this is already, you can see a pretty dramatic change. Now you might say, okay, so this now the edges is affected a little bit too much. I agree, but that's where the next two steps come in. So let's do 2 more power windows. So what I like to do is, I knew from shooting the shot that the light was coming from the right. Right now you can't see that, but if we go into like this place of the shot, you can see that this sun through the trees are hitting her face. So let's just dragging a power window, try and align a little bit here, doesn't matter that much. And then feather it in, see what we're selecting. Gonna do it like this, feather it some more, and then push it back a little bit. Like so. I think that's good. And then we will decrease lift just a little bit. Sometimes it's good to go a little bit too far, and then you can drag it in. So let's just go like this. I actually think we want her to be affected just a little bit more, like so. Gamma down, and we'll put some more blue, a little bit more blue, maybe a little bit blue, not too much. Just to kind of create this balance over here. Maybe it's a bit too much blue. Let's just put in a little bit so it's not too much, like so. And now you can also see that we are kind of circle that we had around her from the other mask is fading out a little bit, which is good, which is what we wanted. Maybe just drag it in a little bit more. And then for the last, if you haven't guessed, we'll do sort of the same thing. So we will do a mask again, and then we will do it on the right side, like so. feather it out a lot. I'm gonna feather this out quite a lot and put it all the way over here as well. And then we are gonna increase the gamma and increase the gain. Might lower the lift just a little bit. Push it up. And then this is where I sometimes go a little bit crazy. So we will push a lot more warmth into the gain and into the gamma. So we get this beautiful look of the sun and the light coming in from the side. And we might just need to push it back a little bit and then feather it in even more. And we could go back to this mask now and just push down the gain a little bit, push down the gamma a little bit again. And now we've created this beautiful mask from the right. So with all the masking that we have done, we've changed it quite dramatically from looking like this after the gradings to this. It might be a little bit dark on the left side actually. So I think I'm just gonna push that up just a slight bit because I don't want it to be too dark. And then we can push the street down just a little bit more, like so. I think that's pretty good. So this is essentially what we've done now. So let's just remove the power window again. So let's go through all the steps. This was completely back in log. Then we converted the footage into Rec. 709. We adjusted the exposure. We added some contrast. We adjusted the temperature to look a little bit more normal. Then we adjusted the tone curves. We added some creative grading. We adjusted the color warper. We did some more fiddling with the log wheels. And then we started adding the masks. So we darkened the, kind of like the background, but more like the bottom of the frame to draw more attention into our subject. Put some more light on her to emphasize it even more. Darkened the left side, or at least made it more blue. And then brightened up the right side and added some red or orange tones to create that light. Usually I'd probably fiddle a little bit more with this, but for the time being and for the video now, I think this is the look that we're going for. So let's play it back. We can even create a little bit of a separation here. So if we select our first clip here, we can just make sure that nothing is selected, like so, and then you can see the real difference here. So this is the clip, this is what we started with, and this is what we ended up with. It might be a little bit too much for some, but this is the process that I go through, and for this video, this is what we ended up with. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. I'm still in need to get back to doing these videos and getting back into the flow, but I thought this was a fun idea and a fun thing to do, and hopefully you learned something from it. Don't hesitate to ask any questions in the comments in regards to what I did, or if you want in-depth videos on any of the techniques that I used in this one. There will be a lot more to come, and I'll cover some more of my most popular reels and how I've created those in the near future as well. So a lot more to come, but this was a great first little beginning, I think, to show you my color grading workflow. So until the next time, take care, and I'll see you then.